How high does a paramotor fly? There are actually 4 questions here. First, how high can it fly? How high is it allowed to fly, required to fly? And the last one, how high you want to fly actually. Welcome to paramotoring. Maybe you've just seen a paramotor flying over the beach or came across a paramotor YouTube video and are super excited about this sport. We are here to answer all the questions of wannabe pilots. I love high altitude flying. My first high altitude flight was in the High Tatras in Slovakia, which is about 10,000 feet, and until today it remains my favorite flight so far. Since then I flew the Alps, the Dolomite, the Grand Canyon, Mount Cook in New Zealand, and I was this close to Mount Whitney. A regular paramotor setup can get you easily to 15,000 feet. Now, in order to fly higher, you needed to have it specially modified, and the world record is held by Ramon Moria's 7,334 meters, which is 24,000 feet. The unofficial world record is held by Bear Grylls, who managed to fly over Mount Everest. Unfortunately, his instruments froze, so it's not officially accepted, but there's a cute documentary about that. The higher you climb, the air pressure decreases, and the engine simply doesn't get enough oxygen to burn fuel effectively. Smaller engines run out of breath a little earlier. On one of our trips, we had pilots showing up with 100cc engines, and they reached the limit around 6,000 feet. Now, the glider size matters as well. Smaller gliders are fun to fly, they're faster, but they don't get sufficient lift at high altitudes. And first time I could really see it was when we were flying a group of pilots over the Grand Canyon. And from all the pilots, I was the only one to actually reach 11,500 feet to fly over the Grand Canyon. All the others showing up with small gliders, they just couldn't make it. Now comes the question how high you're legally allowed to fly. In some areas you're not allowed to fly at all, certainly around big airports or areas with military activity. Some places you would be required to stay below restricted or controlled airspace. I had fighter jets flying over my head at the Great Salt Lake and also at the Dead Sea in Israel. You want to stay clear out of military activities for sure. On the other hand, there might be situations, there might be places where you are required to maintain minimum altitude. An example could be 2,000 feet over the national parks. Most of the areas, however, are uncontrolled airspace. In the United States, it's usually up to 18,000 feet. In other countries, it might be significantly lower. In most European countries, it's about 10,000 feet. In Slovakia, only 8,000 feet. You need to consult your instructor so that you understand the aviation chart clearly and you stay away from trouble. And fly safe. Fun question, how high you actually want to fly. Now, the standard cruising altitude for tourism and exploration flying would be around 500 to 1,000 feet. And this is how my hometown looks from altitude of 1,000 feet. And this is how it looks from 8,000 feet. If things are getting smaller, you can hardly see stuff. Honestly, it was like a 20-minute climb, and it's gonna be another 40-minute gliding down. Pretty boring, but sometimes it's worth for that single picture and that single view, especially when you fly up in the mountains. I love flying at high altitude in the mountains. It is also very fun to fly very low. You can see the faces of the people that you're flying by. You can actually see the burger if it's ready to be flipped on the barbecue. And how sometimes it's fun to fly even lower, literally dragging your foot over the ground. As a general rule, the higher you fly, the safer it is. The lower you are to the ground, the closer you are to trouble. But that's a topic for another video. Thanks for watching. Stay with us.